It's the Standard Pauper show for Magic Gathering Strat, starring me. And this week we have a special guest, Sam, the VaultboyHunter. What is this? That's right, it is my 250th video on Magic Gathering Strat. It's a celebration. It's the Sestercentennial celebration extravaganza. Yep, that's a word. I looked it up on the internet. Let's start off with what everybody's here for. Standard Pauper Gauntlet. That's right. All the decks entered. There was only one survivor. It was crazy. But we have a winner. Who do we start off with? This is our top 5. Dimir Mill, Loyal Boros, Mono Green Aggro, Mono Red Aggro, and Rakdos Regenerations. After playing some games to start off, unfortunately, Mono Green was the first to fall. Poor Badgers. They just didn't last. Second was Loyal Boros. I really liked the deck. Dr. Baker said he wasn't such a fond... didn't have such fondness for the deck, but I thought it was good. I thought I liked the way it interacted. I thought maybe there could have been some more removal of some kind, but that'd make it more control-y and less aggro. It's kind of hard to say. But anyway, it did fine. Made it all the way through to round 6. The next was Mono Red Aggro. Fun deck to play, extremely straightforward, but it got beat hard by some weird Espery Dimir Mill thingy. It's crazy. You'll have to see the video to truly appreciate all the amount of fonts that beat that deck. Let's see, it had fonts on fonts on fonts with Mancers. It's crazy. That left us with these two. Rakdos Regeneration, despite not really being considered the top tier deck, it just kept pushing through. Where we have Dimir Mill, which was the clear front runner from the beginning to the end. Dimir Mill, it beat up on so many other decks. But really what happened, that only left us with one clear winner after it was all said and done. Believe it or not, Rakdos Regenerations won it all. That's right, Lollipop Man. You need to get in touch with me. I sent you an email a while back. Go ahead and respond to that. Toreth, we need to figure out some time to meet up online to get your prize as well and to discuss how we're going to make the rest of that prize package happen. Alright, I'll try to send both of you an email or contact you again just to let you know. But everybody, please congratulate Senior Lollipop Man and Toreth, our champions. Alright, what happened? Not really this week, but 2 weeks ago. They had the mixed formats. It was Return to Ravnica block and Shards of Alara block. It's pretty cool. The winner was Triple R 726 with his Rakdos. How appropriate. I also want to point out that Gauntlet is hosting a league style tournament. Same format. Return to Ravnica block, Shards of Alara block, Pauper, mixed event. You need to go to Gatherling. I'll try to put this up before the contest closes. But it's a new thing. I really hope this works out. I don't have time to participate next week, which is unfortunate, or I would be entering this, because basically every week you just find the person, you meet up, you have your match, you report your match, and depending on how many players, how many weeks it will go on. Very cool Swiss tournament. There's actual decent prize support for this. It's on your own time. I highly recommend it, and I hope it is very successful, because this is the kind of thing we need in this format. It's very cool. winner, that Rakdos Basilica Screecher, Balustrade Spy, Gorehouse, Lobber Crew, which surprised me, Splatter Thug, not surprising. But then you have the awesome removal of Blightning, Terminate, Augur Spree, Devour Flesh. Very, very awesome. Sideboard, you have Volcanic Submersion, which is an artifact / land destruction. Onyx Goblet, which is kind of like the Whip, but doesn't take any mana. Electrickery, you know that, Crypt Incursion, Cremate, and more Lobber Crew, which seems to work. I guess it kind of works with the removal spells as well. Very nice. Very well done. You can look this up on pdcmagic.com, and Triple R wrote some decent comments about his experiences, or hers. I don't know if it's a girl or guy, assuming it's a guy. I would read the comments of the deck list. It's pretty cool. Alright, well, now we're going to talk about some theoretical new decks. We saw some cards, each of us saw some cards, that made us think possibly a new archetype. The way I see this is, these new decks, the one I'm going to talk about especially, the Golgari Enchant. Why? Because it's Golgari colors, and there's lots of enchants. So, what I did, I saw two things that I thought could be used effectively. Kruphix Insight and Font of Return. I know what you're thinking. Font of Return? Oh my god, that card sucks. Listen, 3 cards back. I want the synergy I saw was between Kruphix Insight and Font of Return. If the majority of the items in this deck, before we get to it, 21 items are enchants. Maybe that needs to increase, not sure. But 21 cards are labeled as enchant. If you use Kruphix Insight, hit 2, I don't know, maybe 3 at the most. If you hit a couple, you're putting 4 things in the yard. You can then use Font of Return to pull back anything you want to. Let's say you just wanted to grab random enchants. You wanted to grab a Mark of the Vampire, Stab Wound, and a Leaf Crown Dryad, and you threw into the yard a Deadly Recluse, Slaughterhorn, and Commune with the Gods. You can use that Font of Return to pull back 3 different things, so you're not saddled with only getting 3 of those items that you saw digging 6 deep into your deck with Kruphix Insight. With the Font of Return, you're pulling back 3 more cards potentially, because you can get up to 3 different creatures. So that's where I started. So what I did is I made this Golgari deck. I have start off with just the regular creatures, Sedge Scorpion, Deadly Recluse. Those 2 are your blockers. They scare people to death. Death Touch is very, very scary. Then I added 4 Slaughterhorn, also very good with the Font of Return, because let's say you're attacking, you Blood Rush your Slaughterhorn onto something, you can then pull it back later, either do it again or cast it, whatever you feel like doing. So, I went with 4 Commune with the Gods to grab an enchant or land whenever you need, especially with multicolored decks, you're going to need land. Kruphix Insight, 3 of. 3 casting cost, and we just talked about it, but I think this could be a really great engine. And for enchants, Baleful Eidolon, Font of Return, Leaf Crown Dryad, Nyxborn Wolf, and then you have Stab Wound as the primary removal, but honestly, I don't want it to fully remove cards. Sometimes it will, and you need to do that. But I want it to stick around. Anything with 3 toughness or more, instantly to me says Stab Wound it. I would rather do that than snap kill something with my 3-cost Stab Wound. I think the persistent 2 damage over time, even if you get 2, I have other ways. I have some decent creatures I can kill other things with. And then Mark of the Vampire, once you have something going, you can start running in with the Mark of the Vampire. I thought about adding something with more evasion. Not sure what to take out. But again, this is just a shell. I just wanted to show off the engine. I have 20 lands. It probably needs more being two-colored. But I think this engine is powerful enough that it can be used effectively, maybe more effectively than I've even done here. Maybe you could use this in a 3-color deck and have nothing but enchants. You could bypass Sedge Scorpion, Deadly Recluse, and Slaughterhorn with just other creatures, other bestow creatures or whatnot. It's possible, but again, theoretical, but I like where it's going. Sideboard, 3 Cremate, because having other people pull stuff from their graveyard, you don't want that to happen. Cremate is awesome, lets you draw a card. You could alternately use the one that grabs you creatures from, it grabs you a spirit for exiling a card. Beckon Apparition.
Yeah.
Also Naturalize, because Naturalize is really good in this meta. Razor Tip Whip, because someone reminded me that I didn't have any in the deck.
Hi.
And then Quag Sickness for more removal, in case you really, really need it. So, let's talk about some statistics. Alright. Mana curve, only 4 1-drops, 19 2-drops. That's a lot. 15 3-drops, and 2 4-drops. Those 2 4-drops are your Mark of the Vampires. It is a severe 2 mana, 3 mana curve. So, let's look at an opening hand. Swamp, Forest, Deadly Recluse, Baleful Eidolon, Font of Return, Stab Wound. I would keep this so hard.
Sounds like a snap keep.
Oh my gosh. No.
Yeah.
You are casting almost everything in your deck right now.
Off the bat.
Yeah, with your opening hand. And I'm starting off with, I have a Deadly Recluse on turn 2, a Baleful Eidolon I can bestow pretty soon. Font of Return, I'm getting stuff back. It's great. So let's look at if we are rewarded or not for this snap keep. Next 6 cards. Number 1, Mark of the Vampire. I like it already. 2, Forest. I can now cast Mark of the Vampire. 3, Forest. Okay, I can now bestow Baleful Eidolon. Sedge Scorpion. Great. Deadly Recluse. Love it. And the 6th one is Swamp. So, I think you're sitting pretty good. You could probably use a little more creature action happening with this hand, but I don't know. You play it out right. Slow roll them a little bit. I think you're going to be sitting pretty good with this hand.
Definitely a nice shoulder up hand too.
Mm-hmm.
And all that death touch keeps aggro back so well. So
right, and that was a sub theme of this deck. Just made sense. One of the things that Sam and I talked about was, what if we included the scavenge creatures, which makes sense. If you're throwing a bunch of stuff in the yard, you can use them from the yard, and you can do it, and they can't stop it. They can't counterspell your scavenge, which is pretty awesome. Things I think people overlook is the importance of not being able to be countered. But we were thinking about it. The problem is, if we're looking to do a lot more of recursion, especially with the Font of Return, then having it exiled from the yard is counter to that. We don't have any hexproof in here, so I think the counters you get from what is scavenged are too easily lost.
that and none of the creatures are great, in my opinion, outside of Sewer Shambler.
Yeah.
I think that's the only real scavenge that you would want to jam into any deck. The rest of them at common were like bonkers insane to actually scavenge, like way late game, like unachievable late game levels. So that kind of turned me off to the idea when I was playing around with it. So
right. I believe, yeah, Sewer Shambler and the Scorpion. What was the name of the Scorpion?
Okay.
Yes.
Sluiceway Scorpion.
Sluiceway Scorpion. That's it. That's it. I was thinking of Sluiceway Scorpion. What's the bestow cost on that?
It is 1 green black.
Wow.
And the unfortunate part about the other scavenge and common, Terrace Worm is 7 to scavenge.
Shoot.
Thrashing Moss Dog is 6 to scavenge. And Corrosda Monitor is 7 to scavenge. And sure, they give their power and toughness as counters, but you're just not playing that long of a game, typically, for any of that. You'd have to pay ramp to scavenge effectively, and that just seems like that's a waste of resources in your deck. So,
I agree. Well, that is my Golgari Enchants deck. Sam, which deck did you come up with?
I call my deck Grey Villains. I was very excited when I saw Blood Crazed Hoplite. It is the black hero at common, the only one that we've got at common level, and I think actually out of all the black heroes that they printed, I think it's actually probably about my favorite. I think the one that makes you sacrifice stuff is probably pretty good for decks that can play it. But it just does so much in this format. It gains counters, it removes counters. I mean, it is so swingy. It's insane. So I absolutely love that. So I thought white, black, not really a presence as we've seen. It wants to be grindy in a format that doesn't really support its super grindy decks that aren't mill, because mill takes out the really grindy decks as well as some of the really aggro decks. So I thought I would flip the switch and actually just go full aggro with white black. So all of my decks are heroes. So very common theme: Current Sky Guards, 4 hoplites, 4 riders, your traditional hero base. On this deck, I went with I'm going to go ahead and go down to enchantment creatures. Okay. I went with 4 Hopeful Eidolons and 3 Nyxborn Shieldmates as well. They're the bestow creatures, so they pump up, and then you can play them out if you need to. For instance, I went with 3 of Johnny's Presents in this deck because of the Hoplite and its ability to be way more swingy against Hidden Strings or against the red-white heroic. You want more targeted effects than the red-white deck does. So I also went 3 Gods Willing. For my removal suite, you actually get a very sweet amount of removal playing white-black. 3 Celestial Flares, which have been just proving to be just massively good cards. And that's a card that I completely slept on until even recently. I thought it was a weak version of Devouring Flesh, but it actually has a lot of utility, and not giving away that extra life to your opponent is relevant. That being said, I included 3 Devouring Flesh because the card is excellent. Instant speed, removal, keep your opponent off of their tempo, just really great. And then another Journey into Nyx card, Feast of Dreams. Super excited about trying this guy out, because how many times are you sitting across from a hero that's wearing a ethereal armor and your only card on table is has been pacified, your only creature, and you just nuke the hero that's coming at you? And I mean, it's as close to Doomblade as they're giving us, and it's amazing. It's a great card.
Oh yeah. My favorite function of these cards is bestowing my creature onto one of their cards, Feast of Dreams, their creature, and then getting my bestow creature back to me on my side of the board.
That is definitely going to be a wonderful thing to do.
Cannot wait.
And then for my enchantment package, it's actually fairly small because I want more instant targets. For Ethereal Armor, of course, kind of a defining card for any of the heroic decks. I mean, it does so much. When they printed in a Return to Ravnica, I was just like, that just seems really out of place. But they try to seed the block before the next block.
Without a doubt.
Yeah, so they did a really good job designing that card. I mean, I loathe playing against it, but it is a powerhouse. And then Nyx Infusion. Very, it's removal. It's going to be Stab Wound when Stab Wound rotates a lot of the time. And that ability to... I mean, this deck is more inclined to go ahead and drop a Hopeful Eidolon or a Shieldmate and then bestow something on that and then play a Nyx Infusion and then get in there, unlike the red-white deck that wants to be way more aggressive. And then it counters as removal on the other end, and I really enjoy that. Cage of Hands. What was the Innistrad block one that rewarded humans but punished everything else?
Not Faith's Fetters.
Faith's Fetters, that would have been a good reprint in this set.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to look it up.
Yeah. Let's sound like geniuses.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of what that was. I can see it right now. It's that lady sitting on the demon shoulders.
Yeah, something like that. Bonds of Faith.
Bonds of Faith. Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, and I really wanted the white version to be closer to Bonds of Faith, but I think Nyx Infusion, Nyx Armament or Armament of Nyx, I really wanted that to be, but it's just not quite there. But Nyx Infusion is almost a kind of a lateral comparison. So, and then for my lands, 20 lands, 4 Guild Gates, 10 Plains, 6 Swamps, just kind of reflecting how the curve is kind of set up. And then my sideboard, 1 more Johnny's Presence for removal heavy matchups, 1 more God's Willing, same reason. 2 more Celestial Flares and a Devourer Flesh for anti-aggro. Last Breath for those pesky Doorkeepers, because again, once that gets rolling and they Crypt Incursion you, and you're just pretty much too far behind most of the time. 3 Razor Whips for that constant source of damage that a lot of decks need in a really long grindy game. And because this does not have green in it, I don't get naturalizes, so I put in 4 Rogue Existences. I like the exile on it. I wish it was an instant. I actually wish they would have reprinted Erase in this set, which is just simply 1 white exile target enchantment. But I guess they didn't want people paying 1 white to get rid of gods in the performance. That just seems like that makes the gods strictly horrible to play.
Right. Everybody would be splashing white. There'd be no reason not to.
What are you doing? I'm drafting all the erases.
Right. Yeah. I win.
Okay, so for statistics, this deck is full of lots of 1-drops. 17. Oh, yeah. And they're all white. 2 drops, we got 6 white and 10 black. So really that's where black comes in, and really a lot of that's the removal. And then for 3 drops, we got 3 black and 4 white. So the Wingsteed Riders and the Nyx Infusion. So yeah, pretty decent curve. Again, topping out. Really it tops out at 4 because a lot of the times you're casting the Hopeful Eidolon out as a bestow onto the rider or the blood crazed guy. For my hand, my 7 were Plains, Guildgate, Armor, Skyguard, Hoplite. So I would keep that. Again, only running 20 lands. Being able to cast out my entire deck is not bad in your opening hand. Not only that, but turn 3, you've got a 3/2 Hoplite on board. And you can take away a counter if it's relevant. If it's not, you still have a pretty decent beater on turn 3. And it'll have first strike because of the
yeah, it's beautiful.
My next 6 are Swamp, another Hoplite, so the deck Hoplite loves me as much as I love it. Celestial Flare, Guildgate Plains, and Hopeful Eidolon. So only one kind of removal card, and that's if your opponent bites. But I find that people want to attack, and even in lieu of that, you're building a hoplite that needs to be blocked, and the Flare really gets them on that too. So yeah, so I'm pretty pleased about that. I think that's a much better. I think with the Heroes version 2 really needs to have a couple more lands in it. But anyway, so yeah, no, I'm very pleased with that. I'm very excited about getting the hoplites and the fusions when it hits MTGO. Because yeah, that's definitely happening.
Oh yeah, to me the hoplite, the biggest blowout is going to be combat tricks with the hoplite, because if you're going up against another hero, the difference is now going to be 2, because you're going to be taking down one of their counters. You're going to go up a counter and whatever trick you just played. So, oh my gosh, I know I said it last week, but again, I don't know why they didn't make this the black version. Why didn't they have this feature on other black cards? Even if they didn't give more at common, like an uncommon and a rare that have this particular feature. It just seems so on color. It is the anti-hero.
Yeah, and I mean, I can understand why they waited until the end, because they did a lot of anti-battle cruiser and Voltron cards in the set.
Mm-hmm.
They gave the Tapper for limited. They gave like Oppressive Rays and stuff like that. They didn't want people messing with the Voltrons until now. They wanted everybody getting really comfortable with putting all their eggs in one basket.
Mm-hmm.
But now they drop it to spice things up right at the end of the block, and I think, it's a card that could reach out into Standard without a doubt. I'm sure there's people out there trying to figure out how to break it for Standard. But I think it's a great card, and it definitely wants stuff. It wants to wear other pants. It just definitely does. I thought, I wish I could have found room for Baleful Eidolon in here. I don't know where I would squeeze it in. I might maybe cut the flares and try those out. Because again, more enchantment creatures, more bestow is pretty decent.
Right.
And the Eidolon, the Baleful, shuts down aggro in the early game very, very well. I think this deck is going to be something. It's going to be the answer for black-white lovers out there. Whether, with tweaks and stuff as people like to change their play style around. But, white-black finally, I think, is finally going to come into its own. So, it's happened. One good black hero really is going to do it. So.
you know what's crazy about this black-white deck that struck me the most?
No.
Zero extort.
No,
Not one extort in the blot.
It's so grindy,
but
it's not quite fast enough in the black-white builds to amount to enough, and then against Mill, it just doesn't really do anything. The Scholar of Athreos, that would do better in this deck, because you could just do it as much as you want.
Right.
Instead of having to leave mana up when you cast spells, which is really inconvenient in an aggro deck. So that's why I didn't put any extort in. So.
Oh, it makes sense. It's just every other black-white deck I see out there has some form of extort. It could signal a change in the meta, because what I found out early on, especially after Theros came out, was that as much as I liked extort, the Exalted Extort, I thought was so sweet last meta, even though it just fell completely to the Flicker Gate. But those two abilities together seemed so awesome. But what you run into, like you said, it becomes grindy. Just due to the simple fact that you're spending mana to make that effect every single time.
and you have to cast a spell. So in a top deck situation, you keep drawing lands, you're not doing crap. Even if you have creatures on the board, let's say it's a stalemate, nobody's doing anything. I mean, you are still going to have to be able to cast a spell and have mana up to make that extort trigger happen. That's why I agree with you on the Scholar of Athreos. Much, much better in regards to that.
And this style of deck, definitely. And there's decks out there that can do the extort thing, and Syndic will remain relevant in them. But in this deck, I'd really rather try to get in there and do like 11 points of damage or something by turn 4, instead of cast one spell and extort once, cast one spell and extort twice, cast one spell and extort, because I think that ties up too much mana. But I mean, I like extort as a mechanic. I just I hope it gets further exploration further on down the road. I hope they bring it back and try different things with it at some point. So that would be really nice.
It seems like something. I mean, if they're willing to bring Exalted into like an M set, I don't see why Extort wouldn't be also viable. I mean, they also brought in Bloodthirst. Yeah, that's the one. If they're willing to bring Bloodthirst into an M set, or any of the other things that are like that, I think Extort has the longevity to do something like that. I know they like to keep it vanilla, but if it's one little thing, I don't know. It seems like it could go. Maybe that's why I'm not a card developer, but still, it seems like it can come back.
Well, I mean, and I can remember when core sets were all reprints, so the fact that they've brought back Scry and they've brought back Bloodthirst, and they had a gold creature, just one, or a gold planeswalker, just one, but, you know, that's really a big deal. Like, when I was out of the game, that's when they started making new cards for the base set. Very, very cool comparison, and that's going to be honest before we know it. So, I'm looking forward to it, because I think M14 was so dull, so dull. So,
well, that brings us to the end of the show. I'd like to thank everybody who made this 250th episode happen, namely me. I'm just kidding. If it wasn't for Dan, I wouldn't have probably ever made one of these videos and put them up on the web to begin with. Also want to thank Will over at MTGO Strat for putting up my typed out musings. Always appreciate it. And you, the viewer, because guess what? You make this happen. Please subscribe, like, follow us on Twitter. Sometimes we're on Twitch, on Facebook. It helps us produce more content. I want to say thank you for watching, and have a good day.